Thanks for sticking with us. All right. We voiced our frustrations recently with the Sixers. We thought we were going to come on and start talking about the arena. Looks like we're going to come on and start talking about Joel Embiid. Keith Pompey, our man on the inside. What's going on, man?
What's good, fellas? How y'all doing?
It was better till I got my push alert from the Sixers about how Joel Embiid's failing.
Yeah, it's rough. It's been a rough season for him, huh?
Yeah.
A rough career.
Give us an update on what happened today, and then we can go back to how we got here.
Well, today we got notified that Joel Embiid is going to miss. Well, he's going to be reevaluated in 7 to 10 days. He's definitely going to miss their upcoming 3-game road trip, which is against Indiana, Milwaukee, and Denver, because he has increased swelling in his left knee. Joel worked out on Thursday in the gym, did a workout, and after the workout, his knee swelling has increased. Joel has been out the last 6 games for what they said a left foot sprain, but he's been dealing with this knee issue all season, and it makes you wonder: was the knee bothering him all along? Just makes you wonder.
I got a question. Didn't he have a knee problem last year?
Mm-hmm.
Did he miss a lot of games last year?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not trying to trip you up here. Missed a lot of games with that knee injury, right?
Mm-hmm.
Then he went and played in the Olympic, right?
Yeah.
And now he has the same knee problem this year.
Yeah.
Jason? I'm waiting for Jason's head to explode.
You know how I feel about this. I thought that he came back too soon last year. He said all along he didn't have the lift after the surgery in the playoffs when he's trying to push through it. Then he didn't give himself the proper rest, and he went to get all ready to sit on the bench in the Olympics so that he could put a medal in his case. And then I've been told all season is day to day. And Keith, I got to be honest, I don't believe him anymore. And Jeff and I used to joke for years about the apathy with the Flyers franchise. Just texted me the other night, $2 tickets. I'm watching the game. There's a ton of empty seats, and I'm hearing MVP chants for Jalen Brunson. So, this is a larger problem for this franchise than just this man's knee health.
Before we let Keith speak, you need to correct yourself. It was $1 tickets.
Well, sorry. I apologize. Okay. But how far have we fallen just this season right now in terms of the feeling of the fan base to this franchise?
Yeah, I mean, this has been a deep fall. I think the difference, I think the difference from the tanking years was the tanking years, you had something to look forward to. At least you had the draft to look forward to, and you could possibly get a pretty good draft pick, and then it had a future. Right now, this was the summer that they did all in, and they got these guys, and next thing you know, they've only played 10 games together, talking about Paul George, Tyrese Maxey, and Joel Embiid. And, I think Joel said it, look at what I've done for this city. Well, right now, all people want them to do is get out there and play. All people want the 76ers to do is to have more transparency. And there are two things that they haven't had that haven't really happened to the level that people felt like it should have. So with that being said, it's there. I see fans a little bit disgruntled. Now, the one thing I will say, y'all both know this. If they come back and Joel Embiid plays like 6 games in a row where he's like looking like old Joel Embiid, then there are going to be people like, oh, we know Joe can do it. We're back. But right now, I have to say that, the emails that I get, the calls that I get, the stuff that I hear when I'm in the arena and stuff like that, walking the streets, there's a lot of people who are very disappointed with the 76ers right now.
I think disappointed is a better word than disgruntled at this point. I can only talk from personal experience, having grown up as a Sixers fan, watched the teams in the 80s with Dr. J and Moses Malone and Andrew Toney, and I can go through the list. It's gotten to a point where a lot of us, and I'll include myself, don't care anymore. Not angry about it. Don't care. And I think that part of hold on, Jason, the thing that is the don't care part is not just that we had to go through all this for over a decade for no championships and no championship series, but also the level of perceived deception or lack of transparency as to what's going on, to the point that you can't, as Keith, you mentioned, there was a point at which we looked forward, at least sadly, to the draft instead of the 82 games, and looked forward to what was supposed to come. Now we don't. And it's not just one administration, it's a series of administrations that have not been forthcoming or transparent, to the point that you can't even look forward because you're hesitant as to whether or not the information you're giving is going to, in 7 to 10 days. Like, if I knew, not me personally, but if I, as a Sixers fan, knew in 7 to 10 days that Joel Embiid was going to play, I'd be excited. There's no reason to believe that in 7 to 10 days he's actually going to play, because we started this year talking to you in Iowa with he's not going to play except for one game in the preseason, and he didn't play in that game because he had a scheduled doctor's visit that nobody could figure out when it was scheduled.
I think I lost my mind on that call with
Keith. So is it? So what can the Sixers do beyond trying to get a player or players healthy to, in my opinion, win back, or people have faith that they have something to look forward to?
You know, again,
Keith, he's serious. I text him. Like, I'll get really angry. I look out for the lineup each day, and I'll get really angry, and I'll text it to him, and he's like, you just need to check out. Like, you need to stop getting so invested in this. It's going to keep happening.
Yeah, I mean, it's a serious situation. Again, I do think that if they come out and they go on a crazy run, then maybe people will come back. But, you know, right now, I think it's justified. People are justified not to be there, or not to be following this team the way they used to. Now, here's the thing. I'm just going to say this. It was 8 minutes before their last game when they played the New York Knicks, and I walked out in the bowl, and it reminded me of the process. Now, granted, you said you saw empty seats in the game, but it comparable to what it was by mid first quarter, it was a packed house compared to what it was, right? But the problem was, a lot of those people were New York Knicks fans coming from Jersey and New York. And they basically seemed like, hey, I'm not missing work today. I'm going to go to this game right afterwards, and I'll probably show up a little late. But that's what it was. But, you know, I do think that this is a bad look for the Sixers, because, you know, when you talk about it, it's always been in the past. Don't worry about the present, because the future is going to be bright. And now you look at the 76ers, and you can make a strong argument that the roster that they assembled last year, before they made the trades on the trade deadline, before, was better than this one. They had the right type of guys, and they got rid of all those guys because they felt like they were going to go all in and get these guys. And Embiid has only played 13 games. Paul George has yet to show, yet to play to the level that people felt that he would play like. You know, Maxey is forcing a lot of shots because he's trying to do so much. And in addition to that, a lot of the guys, actually all the free agents that they brought in, all of them missed the game.
Yep.
All of them, because of injury. So, you know, this has been a real disappointment, but the Joel thing is mind-boggling, because, you know, it goes from day to day. It was 12 days. Day to day for 12 days, to now it's like, oh, well, he's going to be out a week and a half, probably.
I think
even with that, you can't go by that, because you remember when they were in Charlotte and he missed the game, you know, it was like, whoa, he's going to be out the weekend, or he's going to miss X amount of games. He only missed one. So, like, they don't even know.
I think that's why people don't believe them, though. And I think part of the problem is, where is the leadership? You run Nick Nurse out there every day to give a report that's the same thing day to day. We'll see how he feels. No Daryl Morey out here commenting on it. No Josh Harris out here commenting on it. So the fan base just assumes that they're okay with this.
I don't know if they're okay with it, but they don't want to answer questions about it
That's
because
their job.
yeah, it's their job, but people are going to be extremely critical. I mean, you look at Daryl Morey right now. Like Daryl Morey came in here, he was supposed to be the savior, right? Like, they had everyone else. It's supposed to be the savior. Well, you look at it, they have the same problems that they had when Sam Hinkie was here. And we're talking about different, like different general managers, presidents, and all that. That was at least four people in between them, right? At least 4.
Mm-hmm.
So they're the same problems. I just feel like they know that he's going to be hammered. He's going to be asked a lot of tough questions, and they don't want to answer, in my opinion.
But somebody's got to answer. If that's leading to the apathy that's now coming, is that there's nobody that can answer the questions that we all have. There's people like you that are in a room to ask questions, not to be critical, to ask questions. At some point, they just have to answer questions.
Yeah, and that's the problem. It's funny. I think in the past, before, I remember I would ask these questions, and there were certain people who would be critical of me. Why are you doing this? Why are you being so this way? Why, like you're negative, you're this and that. Let it be, let it be. I think a lot of those same people are now like, this is crazy. Like, how come we haven't heard from Daryl Morey? Like it's just a lot of things, man. And even Embiid hasn't really. I mean, like it hasn't even been transparent or hasn't been visible. Let's just say that. Like to me, it looks kind of bad at times when you see Paul George when he doesn't play, he's there on the bench with the team. Kyle Lowry's there on the bench with the team. Everyone else, Joel Embiid isn't always there. Now, unless there's something that he can't sit in that seat for an extended period of time because he's getting treatment or something like that. But outside of that, if I'm a fan, I'm like, whoa, we paid tickets for this, and he's not even at the game. Like, you know what I mean? So it's crazy. Like I will say this: when we were in Orlando last week, it was on Sunday, and I remember like then now you go in the locker room, you could tell Joel's not going to play. Joel's on his phone. He has his sweatsuit on, like sweat hoodie and all that. But then when I walked out, I saw his father, who like his kid was standing, like there's a rope in between, like well, not really a rope, but it's like a divider where they have the fans on one side and the players walk out from the locker room the other side, and fans could cheer them on and whatnot. So there was a father. He had two sons that were there. He was somewhere else, but he runs over and he's like, he hurries over. He wasn't running, but he rushes over, and he's like, "You mean to tell me Embiid's not playing? What? Embiid's not playing?" So I asked him a question. I was like, hey, "What's up?" He's like, "Man, we drove up from Miami to see him. I'm a big time Sixers fan. I'm from Philly." So, it's one of those things where you can see now that people are getting a little upset because these tickets cost money. They cost money. And the father was disappointed because they drove up to see the game and Embiid wasn't there.
And that's my point. You don't need defending. Nobody who's in that press room needs defending. But as a fan, forget everything else we do. As a fan, there's two reasons I want to know. One, I want to know that I can look forward since I can't look at the present. And two, if I'm going to spend several $100s, I want to know that somebody's playing. Or what I don't want to know is what you said, is that there are going to be games where everybody they've signed ain't playing. And asking those two questions, or asking that one question to get those two answers, seems to be a basic obligation that any organization in any sport or any business has to its fan base or its customer base.
I'm just saying, I think it's a bad thing that my 4-year-old is trained when he puts on the game to say, is Embiid playing tonight? He's 4, Keith. And even he knows. And my bigger problem is the ownership all stood up in front of a microphone a week ago when they got their new arena deal that they moved. They were willing to talk and say what they wanted then. So they won't stand up and talk about the product on the court, but they'll talk about the shiny new arena that they're building separate from how they even got to that deal. So to me, it's just a question of priorities. It's not a priority. We can say it's their priority, the product on the court. Their response to what's being out there does not reflect that.
Yeah, I also think the one thing that I will say is you can't give them a pass because they get information before everyone else, right? And they know it's one of those things where it's like it could, like, here are the two scenarios or whatever, right? But I do think that everyone thought this year was going to be better. The ownership,
not Jeff.
Maybe not Jeff, but I think Joel, a lot of people are like, wow, we didn't know it was just going to be this bad. And also, I do think there are certain times where they do think that Joel's going to play. And then Joel's like, I can't go. Now, Joel won't come out and say that publicly because he doesn't want people to get upset with him. So it's kind of like, well, we decided we're not going to play.
Well,
but I do think that Joel has the final say on. I'm not going to say all things, but there's been times where Joel Embiid had the final say, I believe, and he decided not to do it.
Well, if Joel's listening, Joel, realize people are blaming you anyway. So not saying anything isn't going to work at this point. Here's my concern about the rest of the team and what you're seeing around the team. How is this inhibiting the development of the younger players? How is this hurting someone in particular like Tyrese Maxey, who has this huge load on his shoulders? The inconsistency of who he's going to play with. I mean, he can't develop a pick and roll if the other part of the pick and roll ain't there. And if he doesn't know who's going to be playing inside if Embiid's not there, would it be better for the development of the rest of the players? Forget record wise. Would it be better for the development of the rest of the players, including Tyrese Maxey, if Joel Embiid were to just, as we talk about every year, shut it down?
I think it would be, but at the same time, I feel like, I think it would be. I do. But I feel like the team is like, well, you know what? The teams that we have below us aren't that good. They're tanking. We feel like if we can get in the play-in tournament, we can win that, and then we feel like we could be a pretty good matchup against some of these upper echelon teams if we're healthy. So that's what they're thinking.
How far have we fallen though? Like the Pistons are above us, and our thing is if we can win a couple games, we can get into the play-in now. This was supposed to be the team that they constructed to compete. It's just we've lowered the expectations. It used to be a running joke that until this team gets past the second round, you can't pay attention. They ain't even going to get there this year. And by the way, they don't have their pick other than top 6 protected. So unless they actually tank, they're not going to get a draft pick out of this. They are literally in purgatory. And my fear is Morey pops his head up to move some of the young guys to try and save a sinking ship that already ain't floating.
Yeah, and that's the problem. And I guess that goes back to, what Jeff is saying. Asking a question. Yeah, it would be better off to develop people to find out what they have and this and that. But I also think the reason why they don't do stuff like that, y'all, is because, like, you can always use excuses you can always use injuries as an excuse for why something didn't happen, right? But then you could come back and you hope and you pray that, okay, well, maybe we'll get them on the floor together and we can make it, not maybe a championship run, but we can win a first round series or something like that and just have everyone happy, so to speak. But, right now, when we talk about development, couple guys that they could, like Justin Edwards,
Oh,
Sully. He's a guy that they found out that he could play, and someone that you may have to make some moves to keep him, like literally, because I don't know if they can afford him with the way this roster is. But I mean, other guys bring them out there, play them. But I also think that if we're going to be honest with ourselves, it's a matter of trying to keep the fan base because we already see that people aren't coming to the game. And then they told people over 10 years ago to trust the process, and people stayed with the process. Well, this is supposed to be the finishing product, right? And we look at the finishing product, and they're worse than what they were in some of the years they were tanking. So I don't know if they want to admit to shutting everything down because what that is, you're basically admitting to failure. And what they did in the past was they would always like push the goalpost backwards, so to speak. Well, you know what I'm saying? Like, oh, it's not going to happen this year, but it's going to happen next year.
Well,
And I
now,
feel
but
like
yeah, but now we can push the goalposts ahead 7 years. So our goal should be to have a championship team when we move into our new building.
you got 3 minutes to talk about it before we go off the air, Keith.
yeah, I don't see them winning the championship right now. I mean, I just don't. I mean, you never know what can happen in 7 years, but I feel like they got to do, man, they got to blow things up and just start anew because right now this ain't happening. This isn't
Well,
it.
well, while the stuff's going on in the court, we know all the stuff that's now going on off the court and their new partnership with the Sixers. I mean, with the Flyers. Did they play this right? Did they?
They play the city.
You know what? I don't know if they played the city, but it looks like they played the city, right? It looks
Yeah.
like, it looks like one of those deals, in my opinion. And again, I don't have a lot of inside knowledge, but it looks like one of those opinions where if I want to get a raise or I want to get something, well, what do? You get a job offer somewhere else, and
Mhm.
then next thing you know, you see if the people in your job really like you. And what happens is that's what happened. Like it seemed like they got the partnership that they wanted with the Flyers, but if they didn't get those stipulations, they would have built their own arena in Philly downtown. So that's what it seems like. And yeah, it looks like the city was played big time. It looks that way.
All right. So, last 2 minutes. What do we look for the next few weeks from this team? Embiid's out 7 to 10 days. Paul George has had foul trouble when he's played at times, hasn't really played to the level people think. Where are we with this team in the last minute and a half?
You know what? I think if these next, well, at least for the next 3 games, you're not going to learn anything about the 76ers. Nothing. Nothing. Now, you may want to see how Justin Edwards looks when he's guarding Dame Lillard. You know what I mean? And like, can he box someone out? But aside from that, you're not going to get anything because the problem is, even for moving forward, the teams below the Sixers are trying to tank. So even still, the Sixers are still going to be in contention for the play-in tournament, even without Embiid. So we're not going to learn anything. I mean, these other teams are selling left and right. So we're not going to learn anything if we're going to be real.
Jeff, am I just going to keep losing my mind over this? I can't
Yeah.
check out like you do.
Yeah, I didn't need to answer. Keith answered for you. Yeah, you're going to keep losing your mind.
Keith, you got to know. I sent Jeff the release of the agreement between the Sixers and Flyers, and he literally got in between the court stuff he had to do in Chicago while freezing to call me because I could hear the steam coming out of his ears through the phone. Like that was the extent to Jeff's reaction. He could care less when I sent him the starting lineup, but they come to an agreement like that after everything happened, and he's got plenty of thoughts.
That's why he doesn't have season tickets anymore.
Yeah, I mean, it is the reason. And by the way, I think at the end of the day, this is the right outcome is for the two teams to play in the same arena down there and develop down there. How they did it is troubling to me, and how that, by the way, how the mayor dealt with this is trouble. We don't talk
Greatest
politics
deal
on
ever.
this show, but the mayor, she needs to go to some sort of school to learn how to negotiate a deal. Because if she thinks this was the greatest deal ever when they were going down to Market East, I don't know what to say.
Jeff gets,
I'm at a loss.
Jeff gets the last word this week. Thanks so much for joining us this week. Make sure to join us next Friday nights. Hope you start your weekend in style. Have a great one. We'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye.